All I've ever known in this life is the grind, fast pace, and a no-quit mentality. Always searching for the next challenge to fill the void in this crazy thing we call life. Little did I know, my first love as a kid, the whitetail, would stick with me forever. And now it's more than a lifestyle. This is what I live for. All right, we gonna get in and do some scouting today. Kind of gonna go over how I do things myself. This is real. This is exactly, I'm going in to scout this for myself. Laid a couple pins, things that I like to see, terrain features, edges, transition, and I've never been here before in my life, so we're gonna get in here, tear it apart. Got some cameras in my bag, and we're gonna see what we can find today. There's an old scrape here. Now the licking branches are fresh. Looks like he was in here last year. It's just in between these two cuts. Trail comes across the top side of this cut. There's an old one there too. Licking branches are rotted. Probably last year, year before. Here's this year's. A fresh break. I'd say that one over there was probably the primary the year before, and then looks like this branch broke. Made a vertical and a parallel branch right here. I'd say this one here took over. Just made a better location. Wind kind of flows up the mountain right here. Two different age cuts. There's a trail right here, doe trail coming across. He probably stayed on the upper side of this cut right here. Scent check and hit this upper side of that cut and then roll right into the next one. Not a lot of rubs in here though, so it's probably for sure like November, late October sign. I feel like areas with a lot of scrapes but no rubs, the bucks aren't living right there close. They're just strolling through and scent checking, hitting the scrape and keep on moving. So potential though for a camera location, maybe for inventory. I'm not saying you couldn't kill here. If you had a buck living close proximity here, these cuts, I'd say you could probably kill here because it's so close to two cuts at once. But probably gonna make a big loop in here, make sure we're not missing something better, then come back to this before we put a camera up. I like to figure out what's going on first before I start throwing up cameras. So that's the plan. So talk about finding pinches or funnels in the big woods. A lot of times for me, it doesn't even have to be like those giant terrain features. What we're staying in right now, you wouldn't even be able to see on the map, other than the edge of this cut right here. We were just walking this trail out, running parallel to the bottom side of this cut, and we actually walked up on a shed buck. He was in this kind of little low spot right here, and he went up in. But if you look, you got this edge right here where the bank drops down over. As you get another 40 yards right here, we got the edge of the cut, and you got the bank, and it gets closer, and it funnels in right here at the end. Well, those could be really good camera locations for rut time. You get inventory on the bucks that are running the bottom side of this cut. Even in a early season scenario, there's oaks in here too. If you have a buck you find it's coming out of this cut, this could be a good place to ambush them where these little funnels come together. Everything's real close. So a lot of times that's a lot of things I look for big scale in mountain stuff, where it's just the little stuff that you find that you can't see on the map. You got to put boots on the ground to find it. You find where these little things come together, where rocks, downfalls, logs can be the difference in making a funnel where you can get a kill. So this is kind of a specific scenario. I usually don't, I'll say, spicing up this kind of scrape. So it's nothing like super crazy, but just the size, I'll say, of the sign on this tree, the height tells me there's probably a good deer using this, even though there's nothing else like super significant here. This is kind of like a burner spot. I'm gonna put a camera here just to maybe see if I can see what that deer is maybe for next season. And I'm just gonna make this a little bit better scrape, and just to make it a little more enticing for him, step in front of the camera to see what he is. Basically just a lot of stuff comes together here. I got a cut, 2 different ear cuts, but the cut makes a corner here behind me. Everything gets tight. There's a lot of big oaks right here, and then the hillside slants, so it almost makes like a corner right here. And it seems like there's a lot of feed sign in here. I just like to take note of late season trees that deer feed under a ton. I don't think maybe deer have certain trees that they want to feed under. There's so many of them, but I do think maybe, I could be wrong, some trees might be sweeter than others. Just like white oaks are a lot sweeter acorn than what a red oak is. They're supposed to be more bitter. I just think maybe there are some trees that produce a sweeter acorn because they might be sitting in better soil. Who knows? I could be wrong. That's my theory though. But I'm gonna spice this up a little bit, show you how maybe I would do that on any other scrape, and get this camera on and we'll get out of here. But I like to trim just a little bit of stuff out of the way if the leaf clutter is going to be in the way of the camera. So this one here doesn't need too much. Do some of this. I usually wouldn't touch these branches either if we weren't so far out from season. If we were closer to season, I would never touch these with my hand. I like to take a pocket knife. I did not come up with this idea. I learned this from a buddy, a really close buddy. But I oftentimes see deer chew on the branches to leave that their salivatory gland on it. So I like to take a knife and I just kind of cut these up a little bit here on the ends, make it look like a buck has chewed on it already, give it that visual effect. Like I said, I'd never touch these with my hand if it wasn't in March. I'll cover all that up with scent, and we'll get over it by summertime. I'm a big buck fever fan, but I let myself run dry of that, so the next best thing that I have found is this Code Blue rack rub. It works pretty good when I'm in a tight spot. So I also kind of like the gel form. Get the rubbing on there. The brush makes it really nice. I think opening up that bark like that with your knife too, you get that scent on there. The scent has a better chance to soak into that bark. Might help it hold longer. This is the first time doing this to a scrape. I really like to get a lot of that scent on there for the first time. Gotta get it established. And I usually don't do too much for the ground as far as scent goes. I'm like 95% a licking branch scent kind of guy, but I'll just make sure I open it up good And like this scrape here, seems like there's a good bit of scat in it. I do think that makes a difference. You find a scrape with a bunch of scat. I mean, it's probably a scrape that he likes to come to. If he feels that good about it and he's taking a shit in it, he probably feels good about it. So when I go to clean it out, I try to leave that in there. I'll scrape out around it, leave that in there. Kind of just helps add to the whole scenario. That's a pretty good size one. About that size or a little bit smaller is usually how big I make them. But if I'm really feeling good about it, a lot of times I'll take a stick the size of my finger and I'll actually make a hoof print or two depending on the soil type, just for the visual aspect is all that is. Just try to make it as lifelike as you can. If they accept it, then they start pounding it, and that's where you get your opportunities from. So. Out here doing some scouting for work. This is not a new area, but a new section of this piece that I've never hunted or ran cameras or anything. And I've already been in here and I hung 2 cameras, scouted one day in here, and pretty much already had some assumptions, and I just kind of wanted to come in here and break it down some more, followed some trails, tried to check the boxes on what I was assuming. It's really good to do that because I got down into this point and it looked a little bit different than what I thought I was going to. A lot of sign in here. Man, there's a lot of sign. Probably some of the most crazy rut sign I've seen in a while. Really long, continuous scrape lines, which is awesome. Just bouncing from laurel to laurel, and you could tell Buck is using this area to maneuver his way from A to B, doe bedding to doe bedding, but he's using the laurel as the laurel changes elevation to get from there without exposing himself and some of this big stuff behind me, which is like super important if you can figure that stuff out. So boots on the ground, that'll get you way ahead of the game. It's not going to get you, you're not going to kill a buck like that every single year, but I tell you what, it puts your chances way higher as you go. And yeah, I'm excited about this area. See what else the day brings. All right, so I've been working off a bunch of the sign based off the intel that I have, and I knew that there had to be a great big scrape in here and this laurel somewhere. It took me a little bit to find it, but I stumbled into it just now, and it is everything that I want. It's on top of a point where my wind's gonna be the most consistent, but it's way more thick than it has to be in here. Bucks are gonna be here in the daylight, and it's a point between 2 big, I'll say, bowls. And I knew that just the way that they were traveling, directional intel off the cameras, that they were probably cutting over top of this point at the base somewhere to get from bowl to bowl, rather than wrapping the whole way around the point and wasting all that time and energy. And this thing's a hammer. I don't know if that thing is probably doesn't even do it justice on the camera. It's huge. It's an old pin oak. It's getting kind of worn out and dying off, but it's got all this laurel mixed in with it. I tell you what, I think it's a hammer. I'm gonna get me a camera probably right here, get it elevated, and then I gotta pick a tree. And then we wait.